We were talking about the potential of, Monday being a key day to get proceedings underway, to actually have a real opening of this trial. Does this confusion with jury selection back things up?
It definitely backs things up because they lost 2 jurors. And it also tells you about not only the high-profile nature of it, and that some jurors, after they're selected, are saying, wait a second, I don't think I want to get into this. I've been getting calls from friends and relatives. But also, everyone's going home, and I mean the lawyers on the defense and the prosecution, and doing more homework on the jurors. So as to juror number 4, the man who was dismissed today, the prosecution found that in the 90s he'd been arrested for taking down conservative literature or whatever, and his wife had a deferred prosecution agreement. Now, every jury questionnaire, if you've been called before a jury, you know that it asks you whether or not you or anyone you know have been convicted of a crime, and that is number 19 on the list. And so the prosecution brought that up to the judge today. There was they talked about it at the bench, and then he was obviously, for those reasons, refused from the jury. And remember I told you about stealth jurors? So I'm wondering if he was a stealth juror who wanted to get on the jury because he said he found Donald Trump fascinating. That, when he walks into a room, everybody has some kind of a reaction to him, positive or negative. So I'm just wondering if he was one of those jurors who wanted to be on the trial.
It's interesting, and it's good that you remind us of what exactly the jurors need to be, what information that they need to be sharing that may be true across all cases, while certainly there's information that they've been asked to share that's unique to this case in terms of whether they have a true social account or have attended Trump rallies in the past, that kind of thing. But June, what about this idea of real concern over their safety? We know the judge, out of concern for the safety of court officials, of prosecutors, of him and his own family, have put Trump under this gag order, which prosecutors allege he is violated. There's going to be a hearing around it next Tuesday, but it just kind of speaks to how hard it is to keep everyone associated with this safe in real life.
And in New York, you can't have a truly anonymous jury like you did in federal court in the E. Jean Carroll case, for example. So the defense and the prosecution know the names of the jurors, although they're being identified by numbers in the courtroom. So it's not as much protection as you get in a federal case, and there's going to be a lot of attention on them. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Look what happened on the second day when a juror who'd been dismissed. So she's in the jury about a couple of hours, and she's on several cable news networks talking about what it's like to be a juror. So there is going to be a ton of media attention. The judge asked today, or he mentioned that that the media should try to conceal the identities as much as possible. All that I saw about juror number 2 really was that she was young, on the young side, and an oncology nurse. So I didn't see any other information about her out there, but maybe that was enough to cause her concern. I think the funny
Well, it's
thing
interesting, June, because Jesse Waters on Fox News went up with her neighborhood, her occupation, her education, marital and family status, and what industry her fiance works in, saying, I'm not so sure about juror number 2, and that's how we get into situations like this.
I don't watch
the
Fox.
judge now asking reporters to behave. Can he enforce that, or is that advice?
That's advice. I mean, he can't tell the media what to publish or not to publish unless he wants to put a gag order on, all the media. That would be a First Amendment problem. So he's not going to do that. I didn't realize, because I was watching other cable news networks and our reporting, and, none of those details were there. So, but you see that's really dangerous because, we've seen the kind of emotions that Donald Trump brings out in his followers. And so, that I can see why the juror was distressed then. And I don't know if there have been any more information on the other jurors. What's sort of interesting to me on this jury is that there are 2 lawyers on the jury, and one's a civil litigator. And the whole thing is that lawyers usually don't want other lawyers on the jury, because in the jury room, the other jurors might turn to them at some point and say, well, what do you think about the law? Or they become the expert, on the case. So that's really unusual. We'll have to see what else happens, and if people start, really observing the jurors' anonymity or not. But that's very dangerous. You're right. It's just, and I don't know how the judge can control that. And he's tried as much as possible. Maybe they'll have to have some kind of secretive nature of the jury pool. I mean, who knows? It's hard to say.
Yeah, certainly the judge is trying a lot of things, including trying to do this in an expeditious manner, and perhaps that's not happening to the same extent today, given that we're going backwards and we're back down to 5 jurors. And who knows how much longer this process will go on. June Grasso, sorry, final thought?
I think they've said that Monday, because of the Jewish holiday and the observance, that Monday isn't even a possibility anymore, but that's still up in the air.
Ah, okay.